Hi, Mitch from PickDawgz.com. Saturday, June the 8th, 2024, here with today's Major League Baseball first 5 innings picks. In sports today, we also have NHL Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. We have that covered at PickDawgz as well as our PickDawgz YouTube channel, so you can check that out here. Tomorrow, of course, we'll have the NBA Finals Game 2 in this video as well. And, when the fall rolls around, we have more action. We'll have plenty more first half action. But for now, 15 games on the card today, Major League Baseball first 5 innings. Of course, we also do today in sports history. In 1961, Hank Aaron, 4 home runs in 4 consecutive at-bats. Man, the hammer. Pretty solid day at the office. 1961, Hank Aaron. But, of course, today we're going to hammer more than 4 home runs against the books. We're going to round the bases. We're going to head straight for the cash in Major League Baseball action. For our first game of the day, we head across the pond to London, where the Mets and Phillies are going at it. It's Sean Manaea on the bump for the Mets and Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies. Suarez bounced back from that rough outing in Colorado, is taking his first loss of the season to pitch in St. Louis. But after that, what happened was he only went 2 innings in that game. Thing is that the Mets, while they had trouble with left-handed pitching earlier this season, have been absolutely murdering lefties over the course of the last 10 games, hitting them at a .331 clip, while the Phillies have dipped to just .214 versus lefties. Certainly Suarez has, brings a lot to the table here, but Manaea certainly has been around the block a couple times, and while he's been hit this season, the Phillies certainly swing the bats. Well, the numbers are the numbers. These London games are generally known as being higher scoring games, which you would think would favor the Phillies, but not when a team's batting .314 versus lefties. I'll take the Mets in the first 5 of this one. For our next game, we head to Washington, where the Nationals are taking on the Braves. Charlie Morton on the bump for the Braves, and it's Mackenzie Gore on the mound for the Nationals. Both these pitchers have had their share of issues recently, with Morton bouncing back last game, though, allowing just 1 hit over 6 innings against the Oakland A's after getting knocked around by these same Nationals, allowing 12 hits and 8 earned runs over 5 2/3 innings. Mackenzie Gore got hit very hard last time by the Mets, who have been pounding left-handed pitching, though, recently, and part of that pounding, though, was the pounding that they took out on Mackenzie Gore. We look at the way the Nationals are hitting righties, hitting them at .227 through their last 10 games, and the Braves dipping to .228 versus lefties over their last 10, down from .249 for the season. The Braves certainly are missing some pieces in this team right now and still trying to put the pieces back together. And the Nationals, of course, getting the win on Friday, but I think the Braves bounce back here. I'll take the Braves first 5 in this one. For our next game, we head to Texas, where the Rangers are taking on the San Francisco Giants. It was the Giants getting the best of it on Friday night, and in this one, the Rangers going with Andrew Heaney on the mound. Heaney, the Rangers have done a really nice job of managing Heaney because he's a guy that has never really lived up to his potential, and we've seen him get hit pretty hard in recent years. But what the Rangers have started to do with Heaney is that any sign of trouble, they come in there and they get him out. They don't let the damage happen, and it has really helped them in his starts. Meanwhile, for the Giants, once again, a team trying to move things forward, and both these teams really looking to get to 500 and see what can happen once they get there. But both of them have been absolutely plagued by injuries. When we look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, pretty even through their last 10 games. And, I just think that, the Giants right now, maybe a drop healthier than the Rangers, and up against Heaney, I like their chances. I'll take the Giants first 5 of this one. For our next game, we head to Pittsburgh, where the Pirates are taking on the Twins. Of course, the Twins couldn't put a run on the board on Friday. Let's see if they have better luck today, as the Pirates sent Carmen Mlodzinski to the mound. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but he's a reliever, so could be a bullpen game here. The most we've seen him go this season is 2 innings, and he's only allowed 1 hit in his last 4 appearances, but prior to that, he was hit hard. That explains that 6.7 ERA he's sporting coming into this game. The Twins go with Simeon Woods Richardson, and of course, he doesn't go deep into games. games. Went just 4 1/3 last time out. He's gone 4 2/3, 4 1/3. This is generally his numbers, but 2.20 ERA over his last 5 starts. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball. The Pirates clearly, clicking and putting it together, and the Twins as well, but both hitting 226 for the season, while over their last 10 games, the Pirates at 223, the Twins at 213. I'll take a shot with the Pirates first 5. For our next game, we head to Oakland, where the A's are taking on the Blue Jays. Luis Medina on the mound for the A's, and it's Kevin Gausman on the mound for the Jays. The thing about Gausman this season is he's just been finding way too much of the plate, allowing a lot of hits, not walking a ton of batters, but really just getting picked apart. And we saw it last time out against the Orioles when he gave up 6 runs in 6 1/3 innings. On the other side, Medina has pitched pretty well, keeping the runs down after getting blasted in a few starts of his own. And, both these guys are certainly susceptible. But when we look at the way that these teams are hitting the baseball, the A's 218 on the season and the Blue Jays at 230. But versus righties, the Blue Jays at 232 and the A's at 219. Look at the recent body of work of these guys, basically the last 10 games and how they're hitting. A's dipped to 175 versus righties, and the Blue Jays at 229. You know what we generally see in Oakland? Pitchers type games. I'll roll with the under first 5 in this one. For our next game, we head to the south side of Chicago, where the White Sox take on the Red Sox. It is Brian Bayo on the mound for the Red Sox and Nick Nastrini on the mound for the White Sox. Bayo has not been Bayo-like this season. He's been hit extremely hard in his last 5 games with a 3.40 ERA over that span. And of course, Nick Nastrini, he's been hit every single game that we've seen him out on the mound. White Sox, of course, broke that losing streak yesterday, beating the Red Sox with Crochet on the bump, and they look to make it 2 in a row here, but they're going to be hard-pressed to do that. The Red Sox are hitting righties at 246, the White Sox hitting righties at 215. That's for the season, and when you look at the last 10 games, the Red Sox are hitting righties at 285. One thing we know about Nastrini, he gets hit pretty often. The thing is that Bayo hasn't looked very Bayo-like, and I think, he has some vulnerabilities there. I think we're going to see some runs. I'll go with the over in the Battle of the Sox. For our next game, we head to Cincinnati, where the Reds are taking on the Cubs. For those of you that haven't been paying all that close of attention over the last week, the Reds are playing some pretty solid baseball. In fact, the last game they lost was last weekend to the Cubs. Even though they won that series, they lost the Saturday game. Ben Brown gets the ball for the Cubs in this one, and he was one of those losers last week at Wrigley, where, generally he has gone very short in his career, but his last 2 starts, the Cubs have stretched him out. The first time it worked well for them. Last time he allowed 5 runs over 5 1/3 innings. Andrew Abbott gets the mound here for the Reds. He certainly has been hit pretty hard as well, allowing 6 runs two games back against the Cardinals and allowing 3 last time out against the Colorado Rockies in a game where he got massive run support from the Reds in that one. Meanwhile, when we look at the way these teams are hitting, the Cubs are actually hitting lefties decently at 262 over their last 10 games, and the Reds, though, 269 versus righties. Right now, the Reds just too hot. Gonna have to jump on them for the first 5. For our next game, we head to Tampa Bay, where the Rays are taking on the Orioles. The Rays put up a solid fight on Friday, but they just did not seem to have enough. And we saw these teams play last weekend in Baltimore, and it was the Rays getting a win on Sunday after the Orioles had pretty much dominated the series. The thing is that Taj Bradley gets the ball here for the Rays, and he's been absolutely terrible recently, allowing 9 runs last week and 3 1/3 against the Orioles, getting absolutely busted up. That was on the heels of a shutout performance against the Royals, but prior to that, he allowed 5 against the Red Sox. Kyle Bradish gets the ball here for the Orioles, and he's got this extra day of rest. And generally, when they start giving these guys the extra day of rest, I generally start to believe that maybe there's something, a little wrong with these guys. And I think with Bradish, we have to believe that there is some issues here. He got roughed up in his last start. I think we'll see a lot of hits and runs, but I like the Orioles bats better, and I'll roll with them in the first 5. For our next game, we head to Detroit, where the Tigers are taking on the Brewers. It's Casey Mize on the bump for the Tigers and Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Brewers. Casey Mize, of course, trying to make a comeback after missing all of last season and, of course, most of the prior season as well. Former #1 overall draft choice for the Detroit Tigers, who looked like before the injury that he was rounding into form. His last 2 games, he has not gone deep into these games as they pulled him out as he's gotten into trouble in both of those, and his pitch count started to elevate into the mid-80s in just the 4th inning. You know, what we've seen from Mize over the course of the season just looks like he isn't all the way back. On the other side of this one, Peralta, he's looked gassed at times for the Brewers, but the Brewers are a first-place team and the bats are coming out swinging, and we saw that once again on Friday. I don't know if the Brewers put up the numbers that they did in Friday's game, but I certainly think that they hit Mize hard once again. I'm going to take the Brewers in the first 5, and that's going to be my pick for this game. For our next game, we head to Kansas City where the Royals take on the Mariners. What an implosion it was for the Mariners on Friday night. But the thing is, we gave them out in the first 5 innings in this video, so I cashed on that one. I personally also had the Mariners full game, and I ended up losing that one. But like I said, at least we had the first 5, so it kind of leveled itself out. In this one, Castillo gets the ball for the Mariners. He's looked a lot more Castillo-like in his recent outings, allowing just 2 hits over 7 innings last time out in a shutout against the Angels. Meanwhile, Marsh for the Royals is starting to look more Marsh-like, allowing 5 runs in each of his last 2 starts and 3 runs in the start prior. He's been getting hammered. Generally, we look at the Mariners' bats and they're hitting just 196 versus righties over their last 10 games, while the Royals are hitting 257. But, what we saw last night, the Mariners certainly do have the ability to hit, and I think they hit Marsh pretty hard. I'll take the Mariners' first 5 in this one. For our next game, we head to St. Louis where the Cardinals are taking on the Rockies. Kyle Gibson on the bump for the Cards and Ryan Feltner on the mound for the Rockies. The Cards got revenge after the Rockies pulled the upset on Thursday. The Cardinals got the win on Friday, beating Austin Gomber. But today, it's Feltner on the mound for the Rockies, who's been hit so hard recently, allowing 8 runs last time out against the Reds, allowing 6 runs in the game prior against the Guardians. Boy, he has really been knocked around. Kyle Gibson pitching some of the better baseball that we've seen him pitch, but still allowing 3 runs last time out. Just a run against the Reds, but 3 runs prior to that, and basically Kyle Gibson type numbers. We know both these teams can really hit the baseball. When we look at versus righties, the Rockies hitting 239 for the season, and the Cards at 242. Over the last 10 games, the Cards 247 versus right-handed pitching. But anytime I can get these type of odds betting against Kyle Gibson, I gotta take it. I'm taking the Rockies first 5. For our next game, we head to Miami where the Marlins are hosting the Guardians. It was the Marlins getting the win on Friday night in a very tight game. And this one, though, sets up to be possibly a little different as Munoz gets the ball for the Marlins and Ben Lively on the mound for the Guardians. Munoz has good stuff, but we just never really see him enough to really figure it out. But what we have seen of him this season is he got hit pretty hard. Ben Lively, having somewhat of a career year here after a horrible season last year, has a 2.20 ERA over his last 5 starts, where he's given up runs in each of those games. We look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, both of them hitting 235 for the season as a team, and over the last 10 games, the Marlins hitting 249 to the Guardians 238, and over the last 5 games, the Guardians are hitting just 209 as a team. I like the way Lively's been pitching, but at the same time, his career numbers point that there could be a possible regression on the way. I think there's solid value on the Marlins in the first 5, and we'll take them. For our next game, we head to Yankee Stadium where the Yankees take on the Dodgers for Game 2 of their series in the Bronx. The Yankees send Nestor Cortez Jr. on the mound while the Dodgers send Gavin Stone. Friday night's game was a defensive struggle, and the bats really didn't get anything done, with the Dodgers winning deep into extra innings. Of course, the Yankees probably hoping that that they decide to mic up Kiki Hernandez for a couple extra innings or something today, maybe help them put some runs on the board. But I think that, when you look at the way Cortez Jr. has pitched and Stone, this one sets up to be a pretty tough matchup early on as well. I know that the Yankees just could not take advantage of anything going on yesterday as Yamamoto pretty much dominated them, but Stone has been tougher than Yamamoto recently. And when we look at the way that Cortez Jr. has been pitching, he's been touched up a little bit recently. I like the Yankees bats better. I like the Dodgers in the first 5 of this game though. For our next game, we head to Petco Park in San Diego where the Padres take on the Diamondbacks. As we correctly said yesterday, the Padres were in a very favorable spot to snap out of their funk, and they did exactly that. Meanwhile, for tonight's game, the Diamondbacks sent Ryan Nelson to the mound, and he's been hit pretty hard recently as well. A couple weeks ago, he had one of those leave a mark type games when he gave up 8 runs against the Tigers in a game that I had the Diamondbacks. Meanwhile, the Padres sent Matt Waldron to the mound. He's been a very pleasant surprise for them, coming in with a 1.20 ERA over his last 3 starts. One of these guys where he hasn't really always gotten the results, but his pitching efforts have been very good, including a 10 strikeout performance against the Atlanta Braves. We look at the way these teams have been hitting the baseball versus right-handed pitching, and the Padres have been crushing righties at a 273 clip, while the Diamondbacks at 224. We look at the last 10 games and it goes to 325 for the Padres. I'm taking the Padres in this one and for the first 5 innings. For our final game of the night, we head to Anaheim where the Angels are hosting the Astros. It was the Astros sending the Angels to their 6th consecutive loss versus American League teams, beating them on Friday night. Today, the Astros sent Hunter Brown to the mound, and the Angels hope to stop the bleeding with Tyler Anderson. Anderson has pitched very well this season, and while I keep waiting for him to implode, it hasn't happened. He's allowed just 1 run in each of his last 4 starts, including a 2-1 win against the Astros, who ironically started Hunter Brown on that night. So it is a pure rematch. In that game, Hunter Brown only allowed 2 hits, but 2 runs crossed the plate. That was 2 starts back for him. He allowed 1 run in the next start and 3 in the prior, but the Astros have not been winning Hunter Brown starts, but it's none of Hunter Brown's fault in these recent games. The way the Astros are hitting lefties at 253 to the Angels 223 versus righties, and the Angels hitting just 146 versus righties in their last 10 games. I'm going with the Astros in this one. Well, thanks for joining me. That wraps up today's Major League Baseball first 5 innings picks. We'll be back tomorrow as we cover Game 2 of the NBA Finals, along with the complete Major League Baseball card. Of course, if you're looking for my best bets, the games I'm betting today, as well as best bets from the world's best handicappers, we have all of these over at our website, PickDawgz.com. Just go there and click on the Premium Picks tab. I also have a link in the description for you. You can use the discount code PICK and take an additional 15% off. We also have PickDawgz merch, like the stuff that I'm wearing, this shirt, this hat, and some of these other pictures that you see on the screen, like those cool Nike dry fit zip ups that I wear often on these videos as well. You can get those all at the website or under the merch tab, as well as I put a link in the description for that as well. This is Mitch. Thanks for joining me. I love doing these videos with you guys. Let's crush the books again, and I'll see you tomorrow.